Hello, and welcome to episode 134 of Flix and a Six. I'm one of your hosts, Anthony Costanzo. With me, forever and always, the man, the myth, the League of Shadows, Alessandro Bielsi. Say hello, Al.
Greetings, Exalted One. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Al Bielsi, co-host of this podcast and cousin to Anthony Costanzo.
What?
Sorry, also, I was watching Return of the Jedi the other day.
Okay. That works. Also joining us this week, returning guest and friend of the show, Gary Gorecki. Say hello, Gary.
I am Flix in the Six Reckoning.
On this week's episode, delays, theater openings, what we wish we saw, and other news and nuggets, all before diving into our flick of the week, The Dark Knight Rises. But first, Al, what are you drinking?
Yeah, we're in uncharted waters today, as we have three separate beers for three separate co-hosts. So, I'm drinking Bear. It's a American brown ale from Treehouse Brewing.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
Any story for that one?
No, Treehouse doesn't do stories, but I do have a delightful...
That is sick can art.
Right?
I'm all about it. That bear is shouting at us.
I knew you'd love it.
It's so good.
Simply Bear.
Love it. All right. Gary, what are you drinking?
I have Big Wing Haze by Stony Creek Brewing. It's a newer varietal double IPA, 9.3%. I actually went down to the brewery the other day with some friends, but it wasn't available on draft or to order there, just to go. So I took it on the run. I've had it before, and I'm excited to describe it to you guys.
I'm excited to have it again. I'm drinking New Belgium Voodoo Ranger Juicy Haze IPA, which I believe should just say an Anthony beer when you walk into that section of the store.
I've definitely had that beer before, but what's throwing me is, did we not do that one for the show? Because for some reason I felt like we did.
I don't think so. If we did, it was in a bottle, and I don't remember.
I suppose that's possible too, but for some reason that's like striking a chord where it's like, not like the last couple of weeks, but maybe January or something.
I definitely initially judged this beer by its cover because the can art is dope. And then I saw the name and I was like, oh, double whammy.
Can you show me the can art? Because
I sure can. We got this creepy skeleton guy.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. He's got sunglasses. He's got a playing card in his fedora. He's got, one of those hats with the wool ear floppy flaps.
Wait, he's got a fedora and one of those hats?
Yeah, that hat's underneath the fedora.
He's very well hatted.
He is a dapper gentleman.
Whatever happened to the card in the band of the fedora?
I believe it went out with the fedora.
Yeah, but then the fedora came back, sans card.
That's true. We could rectify this. Gentlemen, cheers.
Cheers.
With the sound effect. I like it. And the pour.
This bear is very brown.
This Ranger's doing some voodoo. I don't know. I got nothing.
Hold on, I'm almost
Gary's still pouring. Shh. Now while I'm pouring.
It's beautiful. Oh, look how it's so thick.
Just gonna leave that one out there.
This is a fantastic beer. I'm not the biggest Stony Creek guy, but I gotta say, if you guys see this in stores, I would certainly pick it up.
Listen, I'm not familiar with Stony Creek. This Treehouse did not let me down, as Treehouse never does.
Oh, Mr. Treehouse over here.
Well, my cousin, before pre-pandemic, one of my cousins who lives in Connecticut as well, he lives in Darien, actually. He goes to Treehouse, like, it was becoming more and more frequent how often he was going to Treehouse, actually. Like, monthly or maybe even more often than that. So
you got to do what you got to do. This one is delightful, as expected by the name. My only issue with it is it's definitely got a little bit too much of that boozy taste.
Yeah.
It's higher alcohol, 7.5. Yeah. But it's got, like, you could taste it through it, which is usually, I feel like, I don't really want to taste that part of it. It's fine if it's there. I just don't want that to be like at the forefront. But it's still tasty and delicious. So
that's fair.
I mean, all the Ranger beers are pretty hop forward, pretty much. And then, I mean, New Belgium used to do an Imperial IPA called Rampant that was 10%, but like I just like a boozier taste sometimes. So I understand where you're coming from. But
okay. Yeah.
This one's 6.4%. It's not particularly noteworthy how much alcohol's in it.
I believe during our pumpkin beer extravaganza, part 4, we had a Voodoo Range that was like a habanero pumpkin beer.
Oh, was that the Voodoo?
That one was good. I thought it was.
Maybe.
There were leftovers of that, and I was very happy about it.
I liked the first 2 or 3 sips of the habanero beers, like the habanero sculpin, but there's something about it being in the beer where it just so totally coats the palate that it becomes like a chemical burn.
This particular one that I'm referring to is not that spicy. It has mostly it actually has like that sweetness from the pepper more than the spice. But
all jalapeno beers are trash. I mean, they're just. Why are you doing this?
That's a bold statement and a strong opinion.
Yes, but what are your thoughts on jalapeno margaritas, though?
Sure, that's a margarita. Like, you got sugar in there. Like, it's not a beer.
I make jalapeno margaritas often.
Great.
I like those. Yeah, they're real good. Usually, Chris, friend of the show, makes these delicious. It's called cowboy candy.
Is he a friend of the show?
These pickled, yeah. There's these pickled jalapenos that he makes that are like super in like this kind of sweet syrup. And the key ingredient is taking the margarita mix that you're using and just taking like a tablespoon out of that and replacing it with a tablespoon of the syrup from the candied jalapenos. And oh my God, is it good? But I use mezcal for it. It's got a smoky taste. Very nice.
And the best margarita I had was one at a Mexican restaurant in Weehawken, I believe, where they were sitting behind the bar was like a cooler, like a little like gallon or 2 gallon or whatever cooler, I forget. Like the type of one that it's not like an office cooler because it's much smaller, but it's the one that you dispense water from. But there was stuff floating in it. And I was like, the fuck? So the bartender came over and I was like, can you tell me what's floating in that? Because there's clear liquid in that, and I assumed it was water, but I don't like floating things in my water. He goes, oh no, that's tequila, and it's got jalapenos floating in it. And we make jalapeno margaritas from this. And I said, well, now I'm gonna have to have one. Thank you.
I'll have 2. Thank you.
It was actually really good.
Nice. I love that. That sounds delicious. Anyway, what are you guys rating these beers? Give me thumbs. How many thumbs?
Oh, this is easily 2 thumbs. 2
thumbs for Al, 2 thumbs for Gary. I'll go 1 thumb for mine. 1 thumb for
It sounds like you started off really strong and kind of soured on it as you went.
No, it's just it's very good. It's just the booziness of it that I don't like. If that was gone, it would be a 2 thumbs for me. It's got everything else that I love.
The reason I said this one was so very brown was because it's got everything I want from a brown ale. It was
6.8 is actually pretty high for a brown ale. I mean, without being barrel aged or anything. Like, you guys like the Newburgh, right? That's one of your...
Yeah, Newburgh's not that strong. Newburgh's like 4.
No, that's 4.8. So,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I would say that's pretty legit for a brown ale, because then anything over 7 to 8% is probably just getting into stout territory or imperial brown ale anyway.
Newburgh does a really good imperial brown.
Yeah.
Sergeant Elijah Brown, I think.
No, I'm diggity down with Elijah Brown.
I think I still have one in my fridge, actually.
Save it for me.
Correction. Gary has one in your fridge.
Yes.
I'm so mad. I was gonna say, I'm so mad I missed out on the limited release during the pandemic of Jessica. Oh my god, I was so fucking pissed. I went to order it online. I told you that. I went to order it online.
Sour Jessica Porter?
Yeah, Sarah Jessica Porter. So I fucking mispronounced it after all that. Sour Jessica Porter, yes.
That's right.
Oh my god, no.
I sold out of it like immediately. Oh yeah, you heard that correct, Gary.
It's so good. It's so good.
They made Newburgh made, and this was a few years ago. It was like a one-off release. It was a sour cherry. Was it a brown ale or was it a? Ant, do you remember?
It was a porter.
Or a porter? Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
That sounds like the Dr.
What's in a name? Am I right?
I just totally blanked. I was just like, it was a dark beer. Which one was it? Yeah, it's in the name. Sour Jessica Porter. Yeah.
Sour Jessica Porter. What kind of beer is it? Pilsner.
It was so freaking good. We did it with one of the first episodes of the show.
Yeah,
Like,
that was early.
Episode?
It was very early. Oh man, that was a treat and a half. That was one of those. It wasn't like a larger bottle.
Yeah, it was.
Situation.
It was in like almost like a wine bottle.
Yeah. Oh man.
Oh, $7.50. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was so good. Guys, let's get into some news and nuggets, shall we?
Okay.
Gary, I'm actually going to throw to you first. You mentioned before the show you got some news about AMC. I'd like to dive in.
This is actually kind of breaking news as of 7:45 p.m. Variety tweeted out an article quoting that AMC Theaters CEO Adam Aron says that their cinemas won't require masks upon reopening because they didn't want to, quote, want to be drawn into a political controversy. So, as of right now, that's the news.
Okay, and as you said, that just by saying that you failed. But I mean, I wasn't going to go to the theater right away anyway, just because I don't know when they're going to open, but it's going to probably be too soon. So I kind of want to give that a little bit of time to lapse. But I would be fine with wearing a mask for the first few months of them being open again.
That's true. I mean, it is state by state. We do have to realize that you guys are both in New York, and we're all in the tri-state area.
And Anthony's in New Jersey.
New Jersey. So we're all in the tri-state area. So obviously, I mean, we've had different delegations by the state about what to do specifically and how the states are running. So we do have to keep that in mind. However, just by they're politicizing the issue by bringing politics into it. I mean, they're a business, so they could just dictate whatever rules that they want based on whatever the regulations are in the state. I mean, they don't have to bring in politics into the situation at all. They can just say, these are our rules. This is how our business is operating. They could even concessions. Like, concessions makes a lot of sense. You know, you can't eat popcorn in a theater with a mask on your face, or you can't buy a hot dog or nachos or wherever you're going. You could very clearly just make that the reason why, because as a business, they're not just making money on tickets, obviously. So I think.
Well, the thing is, I was going to say, I mean, even if they can still sell concessions, because with restaurants reopening, most of them are forcing you to wear a mask when you walk into the door. But then when you sit down, every time you take a bite, the mask is going to have to come off, which is why I don't really understand how that's going to work. I'm not going to be at any indoor restaurants anytime soon because I don't understand how that works vis-a-vis, wearing a mask and socially distancing. When you sit down in an enclosed room, no matter how big and spacious that room is an enclosed room with recycled air. You sit down there for an hour and a half or 2 hours with the same people. Doesn't matter how far they are from you. You're all breathing the same air. It's entirely different if you're sitting outside on like a patio or if they have like a porch area outside of a restaurant or something like that. Because there's open air. There's air circulating in the world.
Sure. I will say that the second part of that AMC story that you didn't read was that you won't be required to wear a mask, but if you don't, you will be required to purchase one of their feed bags filled with popcorn. And if that's how you want to solve the problem, I'm all for it.
And we don't do politics on this show in any way. I'm still kind of hazy on how wear a mask is political in any way, shape, or form. How there are political sides to whether or not you wear a mask. It's not really a political matter. It's either you believe in science or you don't believe in science. It's you don't care whether you kill people with your illness that you may be carrying and not feeling any of the symptoms for, or you don't want to kill people with it. It's either you want to protect yourself from the potential of getting this virus, or you don't want to protect yourself from getting.
Right.
None of those things are in any way, shape, or form political. There's no like lobbying on behalf of this. There's no parties running on a campaign platform of masks or no masks. So where is the politics of this issue exactly?
Yeah, I mean, this is a statement from a movie theater. I mean, they're giving this statement. They're politicizing the issue just by bringing it into their official statement, which is just unbelievable.
Well, I guess what I was saying was kind of in support of what you're saying. Is like, it's only become political because you've used the word.
Right.
There's nothing inherently political about we're deciding whether or not to allow you to wear masks or not wear masks,
And especially if they're going to be like limiting theater sizes, like they probably will be, and blocking off seats. I mean, that's only the more reason not to require people to wear masks so they can eat their popcorn or their whatever just 6 feet apart from each other.
I wonder how well that's going to go on account of every movie theater that I go to is assigned seats only, and there's still always somebody in my seat, which drives me up a goddamn wall.
That's going to make things worse, yeah.
Well, every time you go to the movie, except for when we saw Annihilation, in which there was just one other guy sitting directly behind us.
Right behind us. So creepy. Creepy shit. Anyway, Al, give me a nugget.
Okay, you know what? I have the perfect nugget for this, because that was a fairly lengthy topic. So I'm going to read you a tweet, and then I'm going to read you someone's quote tweet of that tweet. First tweet, from IndieWire. Universal's plan to resume Jurassic World filming includes a $5 million safety plan, 150 hand sanitizer stations, and more. Details here. Quote tweet, from Abe Goldfarb. If only there was a notable fable about opening up a hazardous entertainment endeavor before it's safe to do so.
Wow.
Oh, man. Solid gold. That guy nailed it.
Right? I feel like we need to talk about things like that. When someone just so perfectly brings it full circle like that, it needs to be appreciated and lauded. We only have to take a minute or two to do it, unless you guys have more on that topic that you want to
No, there are far fewer things that I enjoy than a matter-of-fact joke that just hits home. It's so good.
I don't need to see a Jurassic movie of any kind ever again, regardless, so...
I mean, it's just, I love when you lose the forest for the trees like that. When you're too close to the material that you don't realize that you're doing the thing, and then take someone else to point it out. Gary, did you listen to today's Levitard show?
No, I missed.
Okay, so I was, in the car because I drive, like 100 miles a day for work, and I was listening today, and they were talking about how there's been a bunch of brands and companies that are considering rebranding or changing their names, changing their logos and images, and some that have done so already because of potentially racist logos and imaging with their stuff like Aunt Jemima, Uncle Ben's, etc., and so on, and how Land of Lakes already had removed the Native American...
I believe it's Land O Lakes.
You're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. Land O Lakes. Fuck you.
We should totally make a knockoff butter brand called Land of Lakes.
Yeah, I'm going to carve a Land of Lakes Jack of Lantern. Anyway, you recall that Land O'Lakes had...
I've bought butter, Al. I don't understand. I mean, if you just looked at me for 10 seconds, you'd be like, this guy's had butter.
Well, listen, just because you've had butter, I'm sure you've eaten many buttery things. It doesn't mean you've bought the butter. You could have bought other brands of butter.
I'm not a country crock guy. Wait.
We are all familiar with the Land O'Lakes logo, right? It's lakes.
Sure.
It's a sunrise, I believe. It's a Native American lady holding a feather or something like that. I forget. I didn't realize, apparently, because I haven't bought butter anytime recently, that apparently they just kind of quietly got rid of it.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want to have that imaging. It's just now the picture of the lakes and the land
and the O.
That it is O. And so they were talking about this on the Levitard show, and someone tweeted at the show and said, how did you guys miss the opportunity to say, of course, the Land O'Lakes got rid of the Native American and kept the land?
Oh, no. Oh God!
And it's like, you know what? This is in the same vein as people not, sometimes you're too close to the material and you don't even realize that you're doing the thing again. The thing that has been done that we want to distance ourselves from because it was bad, it was the wrong thing. And now, admittedly, there's no Trail of Tears on this one, but it's metaphorically the same thing over again.
Just change the whole thing to "Oh, butter," and that's it. Just keep that.
I mean, this was always like just a butter company trying to make money regardless. But do with that what you want.
Well, it turned into a conversation. It turned into a conversation in which it's like, hey, if we're gonna have all these brands doing this, shouldn't we be saying like, hey, some of these like sports teams, like for instance, the Washington Redskins, like pretty racist name, especially in conjunction with the logo. Super stereotypical. And, you go on from there. Cleveland Indians, et cetera, so on. They've done away with Chief Wahoo, but still they're called the Indians. And, it's like, okay, so Land O'Lakes had the Native American. At least it was a fairly respectful, like, picture of her. You know what I mean? Like, as opposed to the cartoonish and stereotypical pictures like Chief Wahoo or the Redskins logo, which is like, and then, the name Redskins on top of that. Like, it's not great. It's really not great.
I would like to point out that they could just remove all imagery from the box and just call it butter, because I have no brand loyalty when it comes to butter.
Unless they give us money, baby.
Now, I appreciate you, despite the fact that I fucked it up and you called me on it, I appreciate the O. So let's just change it to Lake's O Butter and just make it a lake.
Oh, hang on. Brand loyalty acquired. I'm just picturing it flowing down onto popcorn.
Could you imagine that was the imaging? Like a Lake O Butter with a gentle river of butter onto some popcorn or some corn or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. That just seems like a corner of Willy Wonka's factory over there. Oh, man. Gary, you had this great idea before the show started of what movies we wish we would have seen in theaters. And I really do like this. I like this concept. But in order to dive into this topic, I'm going to need you to give me a list of the movies that I could have seen that I did not.
We are deep into blockbuster season, considering it started pretty much sooner and sooner every year based on whatever Marvel wanted to do. And now it's almost July. We're on our way to July. So pretty much, obviously by now, the big tent poles would have been Wonder Woman 84. We could have gotten a James Bond by now. No Time to Die, which had plenty of time to die.
Delay too, right?
Yes,
I think so.
But I think that also
now there's plenty of time to die.
And the Billie Eilish, the tie-in song is good. But it seems like they also delayed that on the radio too, because I never really heard that on any popular music stations. So I'm just really hoping by October. I think it's very good. I mean, it's much better than the Sam Smith song, which won an Oscar somehow, which is just unbelievable.
Did they just they delayed the rollout of the Billie Eilish songs so that the hype train didn't lose steam and then have to come back online again?
I'm pretty sure it was all. I think that was released in February or maybe December. Obviously, a few months before the official release, but I'm a big Bond guy.
I remember hearing this. I remember hearing the song 2 or 3 times, that week that it came out, and then. Yeah, I guess I haven't heard it since.
So we also have some animated movies with Onward, which was released digitally. Trolls World Tour, which was released digitally. And Minions: The Rise of Gru, which I believe would have been out by now.
I don't know. I would say and this is kind of one of my news / nuggets that would have come in. Tenet finally officially was delayed. I don't remember. Did you see when it's delayed to?
I did not.
Okay. Well, I guess it doesn't matter because it's not coming back anytime soon.
I think it got pushed to mid-August, which is what pushed Wonder Woman even further back.
Yeah, they're going to push it again because Florida and Texas are currently being consumed by the virus, and it's just by the time that this episode releases, 18 hours from now. It'll be even significantly worse than it was when I last saw a few hours ago. So and they're not the only two states. They're just the two biggest and the two most obvious at the moment. We're not getting Tenet anytime soon. We're not getting Wonder Woman anytime soon. We're not actually. I mean, AMC can talk about their theaters having masks or not. It doesn't matter because we're not going to any fucking theaters anytime soon. Also, I don't understand why. I've never understood why drive-ins have been dying. I know that the state of New York actually touted a few months ago that they have the most drive-in theaters of any state in the nation. This feels like this is an opportunity. I mean, how long could it really take to set up a drive-in movie theater? Like 2 weeks? A week and a half?
Yeah, that's fair. The interesting thing about it is, like, I'm thinking about like the movie theater that I take you to when you come here. They actually have 2 walls that are flanked by parking lots. They could actually turn those into 2 screens.
This is what I'm saying. Like, there is an opportunity here for us to go back and get some drive-in going on.
You need some white paint, a projector, and an FM transmitter. Boom.
And
movie theater.
Cliff Booth, he lives behind us in his trailer.
But yeah, I'd be on board for that.
My choice for the movies that I miss is I'm going to put a tie between 2 movies because I desperately wanted to watch Tenet as much as Anthony. Maybe he slightly wanted more. And I'm also super excited for Dune, which has...
Yeah,
I don't know whether it's officially been delayed or not. But
Timothy Chalamet as
the boy.
That was a hard cha on the front of the Chalamet.
As the main character, John Dune.
Chalamet.
You're familiar with this material, John.
I've read all 900 pages. I'm sorry. This cast looks amazing, though. I mean, sure, it's a movie I would want to see, but yeah, give me Daniel Craig's last James Bond. I mean, come on, let the guy go out. Nobody's seen this thing. They got Freddie Mercury as the villain. What else do you want? I mean, aren't you happy now? He's going to play Mark Zuckerberg, and there's probably going to be little spider robots or something. And yeah, just give me it.
Wait, can we get that? Can we get the facial scarring with that weird fractured mask, but also the long wig that he wore as Freddie Mercury? Because that would be just incredible.
Nice. Yeah. Obviously, for me, it's Tenet. There would be no question about it. But if we're talking about movies that should have been out already, I would probably get on board with No Time to Die.
Yeah.
Am I sure about it?
Are we sure?
Oh yeah, we're sure.
Wait,
we're so sure.
I'm just asking.
Yeah. I mean, there's in my mind, there's no question. I don't know.
I understand why you wouldn't question it, but based on the trailer, I mean, just looks like Inception, but shot worse somehow. With more abstract ideas, it kind of feels like a lower budget.
Okay, you're only selling me on it more. I don't know,
Gary. When we're talking about abstract ideas and selling us more on a movie that you're unsold on, I'm gonna really need you to listen to today's Levitard because they went down a rabbit hole with Rutger Hauer and the movie he was in like 8 years ago, Hobo with a Shotgun, and they decided to start digging up reviews, and all of them were god awful. And yet somehow they were all more and more intrigued by this terrible sounding movie. But anyway, yeah, no, I mean, I think there's just some recency bias. Maybe it's because there's been a while since there's been like a Nolan movie, because Dunkirk feels like an outlier because it was like historical fiction.
Yeah, it just feels like a movie a director makes, throughout his, like Spielberg.
Well, I think all movies are ones that directors make, but...
Oh my God.
But anyway, it's been a while since we had a true blue Nolan trailer for a true blue Nolan movie. Like, It's been since Interstellar, which is, 5 or 6 years now? So I feel like maybe we don't remember what Nolan movies are like Nolan trailers are.
Well, if they're anything like Interstellar...
Oh, wow.
Oh, are you one of those people that's wrong about Interstellar?
It sucks.
Oh, no.
Wow. Oh, man. I'm glad we didn't have you on that episode. I would have just been pissed the whole time.
I was gonna say, we had Caleb on for that episode. It's
stupid.
Oh,
no. Moving on.
I mean, Tars rules, but...
Tars does rule. We could all agree on that. Oh man.
But no, I love that movie. Anthony loved that movie. Caleb loved that movie. We had a great episode.
Yeah. That's a few back now, right? That's about 6 episodes ago or so.
Maybe 5. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can, if you haven't listened to that one, please tune in. Al, you have other news?
Yeah. You know what? It's not quite reckless, at least not on our. But I have some rumors.
Did you just say reckless speculation?
Yeah. Should we play the music?
It's wild speculation.
Oh,
it's a term that you yourself coined.
I know. Wild
speculation.
I mean, I feel like they could be used kind of interchangeably, but
sure.
Fair is fair. So this is on LRM Online, and no, I don't know what that is.
Nice.
And I worked a couple 14-hour days in a row, so I didn't have time to look them up because I fell asleep halfway through an episode Billions left. So Star Wars, Game of Thrones-like series of shows planned for Disney+. This is from LRM's Barside Buzz. It came out I think yesterday or the day before. If you're a Star Wars fan, today's news has been a bag of mixed emotion. First, we got the reveal trailer for the newest Star Wars game, Squadrons, which I'm really pumped for. Then we all were hit with the expected but sucky news that Star Wars Celebration has been canceled. Now let me drop some more news out there for you from my source at Lucasfilm. Lucasfilm and Disney Plus are going all in on making sure that subscribers constantly have new Star Wars content all the time. The plan is starting mid-2021 to have a Star Wars show releasing every quarter.
Jesus Christ!
According to my source at Lucasfilm, the plan is to create a universe where all the shows will be connected with a central storyline. One big inspiration was the popular Game of Thrones series. I know it's a weird comparison, but let me explain. Instead of making one epic Game of Thrones-like show, it'd be like if each family had their own show with a central storyline that spills over into the others. The shows will be overseen by none other than Dave Filoni, who successfully adapted Star Wars to the small screen starting with Clone Wars, Rebels, and The Mandalorian. We all knew they were grooming Filoni for big things, and this suite of shows is exactly what it was. Below is the initial lineup of live-action shows that Lucasfilm plans to tie together. The Mandalorian, the Ahsoka Tano's show, which that had actually been quite heavily rumored at the time that she was announced as joining the Mandalorian season 2.
Right.
A Boba Fett show, an Ezra Bridger / Grand Admiral Thrawn show.
Yes.
You never finished Rebels, though, did you?
I didn't, but that Thrawn book got me excited for more of him.
A new character show, which they haven't said what the character is yet. I know some of you noticed that the Obi-Wan Kenobi series is not a part of this list. That's because this series will be a one-off that will exist off on its own, which, when you just do the math on the timelines, that obviously makes sense. While this wasn't explicitly mentioned by the source, I would assume the Cassian Andor series is the same. Again, died well before the events of The Mandalorian. There will be some shows that connect to this great new Filoni-driven vision, and some that don't. But that's not all. I have some more information about the future of Star Wars that I'll be sharing later this week. So apparently we need to look out for that as well, because I don't know what that is.
Wait, I'm sorry. I feel like you started that story off with that it was bittersweet. What was?
No, the bad was that Star Wars Celebration this year's canceled.
Oh God, yeah, I don't really care. It doesn't affect me at all. It's that's insane. That's a crazy concept, and I really appreciate that. Also, I would be happy with taking a full year break and then getting just hammered over the head with Star Wars content. I'm all for it.
It seems obviously. What's up?
It's too much. I mean, that's not what Star Wars. Star Wars is a movie that you love or you hate, and that's what Star Wars is to everyone. The Mandalorian. No,
that's what a non-Star Wars fan would say.
What are you talking about? I love Star Wars.
Star Wars was. This is what Star Wars is.
Anyway, I mean. It's just, it all connects, and so I have to have Disney Plus to like Star Wars now? Just give me a theatrical release.
My point was, I was going to say, I'm already giving you my money. I will actually give you more for this. I would be fine just paying for the Star Wars content alone.
Give us Star Wars Plus.
Star Wars Plus.
Yes.
Star Wars Max. What is this? Oh man, I don't know if you guys watched Last Week Tonight, but John Oliver has been ripping into HBO Max, which is really funny since he's on HBO.
You want to talk about depoliticizing things? HBO Max has been the common thing that all of us, no matter what political leanings you have, can all come together to criticize and destroy.
Amidst the sea of protests and everything going on, there's definitely some person with a sign asking what it is.
They don't even know what it is. How can we?
I'm a Comcast subscriber, and I can't get it. I have HBO on cable, and it says I don't count.
You don't count.
Let me tell you guys a quick anecdote about watching this week's movie, The Dark Knight Rises. So as we know, Dark Knight Rises, all of DC is Warner branded, right? And I said, oh,
sure.
Well, HBO Max is actually Warner Max. So let me see if it's on there. I can watch it for free easily. So let me try and sign in because I have DirecTV and I've been told that if you have HBO through DirecTV, you have HBO Max. Great. I go to log in. It says, use your sign-in credentials. I use them. It says, okay, now we need you. I was trying to do this on my TV. Now we need you to go on a phone or computer and kick back the authorization code to the TV. Fair enough. So I go over on my phone, go to sign in again. I'm sorry, we can't do that right now. That's what I was told. Not you don't have it. Not check back at this time. Not call this person. We just can't do that right now.
Yep.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
So then I checked every other service that I have. I checked Amazon Prime. I'm not renting. What's it called? I checked Netflix. I checked HBO proper. I checked DirecTV just to see if it was like on demand. The only thing I could have done was to pay for it. And then I considered, for some reason it's clicking in my head that I've seen something about this deep within Damien's Plex. He has the Christopher Nolan collection.
Sure.
Which is subdivided into all of the different...
Dude, I'll give you a copy of The Dark Knight Rises. I've got 3 to 4 of them.
Wow.
Well, I have a copy on DVD, not Blu-ray, DVD. And I wasn't going to do that, so...
This is what I have here is the Nolan collection, which is both all the movies in 4K and all of the movies in Blu-ray. Which so there's 2 copies of it right there.
It seems so expensive.
Then I have the broken cowl version.
I forgot he has the broken cowl
of The Dark Knight Rises.
That rules.
Oh man! And I also have the Steelbook as well because why not?
Well, ultimately, I was satisfied in finding that I could stream it in 4K from Disney Plex, and for the first time in the last 18 times I used Plex, it didn't break down and buffer every 8 to 9 minutes.
That's cool.
Because that happens a lot.
Sure.
Specifically when I watch stuff on your Plex, actually. And it's a very regular 8 to 9 minutes. It's always the almost exact same bucket of time. And it's actually not that big of a deal, because every 8 or 9 minutes, if it takes me 8 seconds to turn it off, turn it back on, I'll survive that. The problem is when it happens in the final segment of the movie.
Sure.
I'm trying to get to the point to be ready to put my thoughts down so we can, do the show. And I don't know how the movie ends because it dies with 4 minutes left in the movie, and I can't get it to start at the exact right time because it keeps dying.
Yeah,
and it skips ahead time.
That more has to do with my Plex media server being optimized for me, not for you.
But I don't run into this issue when I watch it on Damien's. So.
Yeah. Well, he definitely has overkilled his, so there's that. But the fact that you don't own this movie is a flaw.
No, I own it on DVD.
Oh, you just want to watch it in DVD?
Yes, I own Batman Begins.
DVD?
I own Batman Begins in Blu-ray.
On Betamax?
Dark Knight on Blu-ray. I own Dark Knight Rises on DVD.
Why?
Because I didn't make the purchase that time.
Who in your family is that flawed?
It's cheaper. It's fine. You own the movie. That's all that matters. It's shot on film.
Yeah, it's useless. I don't want to watch it on 8-track.
I would listen to this movie on 8-track.
Can't even get it on hi-fi? Holy shit.
Oh, man. What are we watching? What's everybody watching?
Gary, what are you watching?
So I'm a big HBO guy, regardless. Even though I can't get Friends that I don't want to watch. There's a newer series called Betty on HBO. That's like a 30-minute comedy. It's pretty much focused on lesbians that live in New York City, and they do a lot of skateboarding. They're younger, and they just get into shenanigans. There are more serious storylines along the way as well, as these women go through issues that, lesbian women go through prejudice and stuff like that as well. But I mean, for the most part, they mostly just want to chill and smoke weed vape pens like everybody else and skateboard. So, yeah, it's certainly a different point of view for somebody like me. But, usually HBO content, original content is very good. And I'm always diggity down for a different story.
I agree that HBO content is quite often excellent. I am really caught up on the specificity of the point of view of pothead skateboarding lesbians.
Right? It's a great show. You guys should check it out right now.
Oh, I'm caught up on your commitment to diggity down.
It's in no way, shape, or form a knock at all. That is such a specific niche.
That's the show.
Skateboarding lesbians is such a specific subgroup of human beings. Like, there's got to be, 18 of them in the country? Like a whole 18.
Well, there's only 4 of them in the show, but I'm sure there's many based on populations that's accurate and adequate to whoever's standards.
37.
Al,
what are you watching?
Well, I fell asleep watching this week's Billions last night.
Yeah.
I watched 2 episodes in a row because I'd fallen behind the week before. Still love that show so much. I swear to God, I'm gonna get to finishing that episode. Just not tonight because I'm gonna get 5 hours of sleep tonight. Maybe not even that. But regardless, Billions great as always, or I'll say entertaining as always, because I feel like that's a more accurate reflection. I've said that it's not necessarily a great show in the sense of like prestige and quality and all that, but at the end of every hour, I've been properly entertained. What is unquestionably great, especially this season, is What We Do in the Shadows. I finally got to watch last week's finale. I have to say, maybe the last 2 episodes of the season, while good, were a step down from just every week fucking nailing it.
Oh, that's a shame.
This season. No, again, good, just not the same level of great. That
they had raised the bar too high prior to those episodes.
Yes, the finale was, it was fine. Like it was good. It was interesting little premise. I won't say it because I know you started picking up with it in the first season. But the final 5 minutes of the finale,
gold,
tremendous.
I like that.
In which, and they're not necessarily big on the action in the show. There's a couple little sequences, especially considering they make a very pointed choice of making most of their stunts look as awful as possible on purpose by design, which is really a tremendous thing because it's a win-win. You get to save a ton of money and also generate laughs. So, I mean, it's a brilliant, they're cornering the market on that. But, there's a scene that I can only describe as a C-level budget vampire slaying version of the church scene from Kingsman.
Huh. Oh boy.
Minus the perfect accompaniment soundtrack to it, but still, it reminded me of that scene very much. Mm-hmm. And in the final 90 seconds, like I just totally lost it, like with laughter because I can't say what happened because it spoils what happens at the end of the first season, and I know you're not there yet. Mm-hmm. And this season ends with, after all of it, it literally was just... I'll give you the final line. Nandor asks Guillermo if there's something that he hasn't been telling him. Mm-hmm. And so I call back to earlier in the episode in which all 4 of them, Nandor, Nadja, Laszlo, and Colin Robinson, have admitted that none of them knows Guillermo's last name. they all try to guess. That's actually before the end was one of the best parts of the episode. Nandor goes, because they asked Colin Robinson to look him up online, and he says, "Okay, what's his last name?" And he goes, "Goldberg or Greenberg?" I think it was something like that. Naja goes, "Guillermo?" And he goes, Guillermo. Okay. And Laszlo goes, "Are we entirely sure that Guillermo's not his last name?" He goes, "So then what's his first name?" He goes, "Mickey?" He goes, "Just put in Guillermo online and see what comes up." And he goes, "Okay, there's over 5,000 Guillermos in the metropolitan area of New York, including 4 Mickey Guillermos." So at the end, he says, Nandor asks if there's anything that he hasn't been telling them. And Guillermo goes, "My name is Guillermo de la Cruz." And Nandor goes, "I don't give a fuck what your name is. You made me get my own dry cleaning." And it just cuts, and that's the end of the season.
Oh, that's great. That show is very silly. I'm looking forward to getting into more of that. I actually I have been watching. I had fallen a few weeks behind on Last Week Tonight, so I caught up on that, and I have been still watching Lucifer. I'm actually rapidly approaching the end of that series,
Really?
which I'm just having a blast with it. It's so silly.
Wait, Lucifer usurped Scrubs and
other
things you're watching?
Scrubs is still being watched. I actually was moments before the show hit by the Scrubs truck, is how I like to call it.
No.
That's when Scrubs is such a good show and so funny and has you laughing, and then just does something that rips your insides out.
Oh, where are you at?
The final episode with Jordan's brother.
Oh,
It's heavy, and it was a little too heavy for tonight.
Talk about hit by the Scrubs truck. That's maybe one of the quintessential examples of it, because that line at the end when JD asks him, "Where do you think you are?"
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. It's very heavy. Very, very well executed. Maybe one of the best episodes of television that I've seen. But it's it's
The
really
way they
well done.
execute the twist in
That's
that.
better than Epiphany Toilet.
Wait, what?
The Epiphany Toilet, the Michael J. Fox episode.
Yeah. Oh, it's better than that.
The Epiphany. I forgot about that, actually. See, I think my personal best episode of Scrubs is, wait, what season are you in, Anthony?
I think it's season 3.
Did you see the one with the rabies? You would know. 'Cause
No?
It's another Scrubs truck episode.
Oh, okay.
You would know, because that
Okay, then
episode
no.
to me is the shining example of both the Scrubs truck and also probably my personal favorite episode of the show.
Which
Nice.
is the episode where they end it with the guy singing Overkill.
That was the beginning of it. I think that was the second season's premiere,
Yeah.
right?
Ah.
Yeah, Colin Hay singing over. I have other songs, right?
During the whole episode. So it's a great episode. Very well executed. Cool. Any other news and nuggets before we get into fun and games?
Let me just check here. I don't believe so.
Well, then let's do it. Gentlemen, I have some options for you today.
Oh,
I have a buffet style fun and games course. You could do which Batman villain are you, which I think we've done on some episode, but it's hard to remember at this point. Which Batman character are you? Batman character's personality quiz, which I'm pretty sure is a similar quiz. And then I also have just an actual trivia for the Nolan trilogy.
Wow, let's go trilogy trivia.
seconded.
Okay, cool. So what we're going to do for this, because I have no interest in keeping 2 versions of this going at the same time, is you two will have to agree on an answer. And then we'll see combined what percentage you get.
Deal.
All right. So it's a 20-question quiz. And here we are.
This is awesome.
How old does Bruce Wayne turn in Batman Begins?
Oh, Jesus
32,
Christ.
31, 30, 29.
By the end of the movie?
Well, he has a birthday at the end.
Okay, so 31?
Let's go with 31.
31. Moving on. Which language did Ken Watanabe speak during Batman Begins? Japanese, Tibetan, Urdu. It wasn't a real language.
I'm going to assume Tibetan, despite the fact that he's Japanese.
Works for me, Al.
Okay. Which character did Heath Ledger audition for before playing the Joker?
Oh, it was Crane, wasn't it?
Scarecrow, Bane, Two-Face, or Batman?
Scarecrow works for me. Oh, wait, no. Is it Batman? Oh, did we laugh
sorry. I've already selected your answer. So far, I'm pretty sure you guys are 0 for 3.
Oh no!
How many days did Batman Begins shoot for? 134, 132, 129, 126.
This is like a real quiz.
This isn't even fair.
Why would I know that? Does Christopher Nolan know the answer to that?
He's just inside the computer.
Those options are also like way too close to each other.
Yeah, it's total bullshit.
136, baby.
That wasn't one of the options.
134.
That's amazing. All right. Which Game of Thrones actor had a role in Batman Begins? Is it Ian, Lane Glenn, Harry Lloyd, Jack Gleason, or Kit Harington?
Jack Gleason.
Jack Gleason.
Yeah, King Joffrey is the little kid who gets his thing.
He gets a close up.
Yeah. Which country does Batman go to capture Lao? Vietnam, Japan, South Korea, China?
China.
The Chinese will not extradite a national.
That's right. I go to Hong Kong. What's the name of the mobster that the Joker killed? Oh my God! This just to be when I get thrown off, this is one of those websites that has ads and images that are really big that load in too late and make the entire page jump around.
Oh,
so yeah, it's not great. What's the name of the mobster that the Joker killed in The Dark Knight? Gambit, Gamble, Gambo, Game.
Gamble.
Okay. How does Rachel Dawes die? Explosion, stabbing, shot, torture.
Recasting. No.
Oh man, so true. What's the name of Gotham's American football team? Gotham. Okay, come on, goddamn website. Gotham Giants, Gotham Pelicans, Gotham Bats, Gotham Rogues.
Giants.
Was it the Giants?
It's either Giants or Rogues.
Yeah. I mean, let's go with Giants. I should remember that. We just did watch the movie the other day.
In all 3 movies, which character is the last person to speak to Batman? Alfred, Lucius, Jim. Alfred is on here twice.
That's so confusing.
The answer is Jim.
If it's Alfred, is it Alfred 1 or Alfred 2?
You gotta do the SAT prep thing. You know, you gotta eliminate the 2 answers that are very closely alike, or directly the opposite. Yeah.
Right. Which composer left the Dark Knight trilogy following the Dark Knight? James and Newton Howard,
Hans Zimmer,
Danny Elfman, John Williams, James Horner.
Wait, sorry. Oh wait, so they're saying after the original movies.
It says which composer left the Dark Knight trilogy following the Dark Knight?
Zimmer did them all.
Yeah. I'm assuming that maybe somebody collaborated?
Okay, can we get the names again?
Sure. James Newton Howard, Danny Elfman, John Williams, James Horner.
Well, it's not Williams or Elfman, because...
Let's go A.
Okay.
Elfman did the original ones.
Which villain has appeared in each film? The Scarecrow, Bane, Ra's al Ghul, Two-Face.
Cillian Murphy, baby.
Shivering Soldier it is. What country did Bane abduct Dr. Leonard Pavel from? Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, Iran, or Japan?
Iran.
It's Uzbekistan.
Oh, it's Uzbekistan.
The inmates in The Dark Knight Rises chant, Deshi Vasara. What does it mean?
Rise.
Chaos, fear, rise, destroy.
Rise.
Which of these legendary veteran actors did have a role in Batman Begins? Oh my God, this site. Matthew Modine, Rutger Hauer, Ron Dean, Eric Roberts.
Eric Roberts.
No, in Begins?
In Batman Begins, yeah.
That's Rutger Hauer.
Did, right?
What's that?
Did have a role?
Yeah,
did.
Rutger Hauer was the CEO when he comes back and he's trying to fuck him out of.
Oh, so Eric Roberts is just in
The Dark Knight.
Dark Knight. Oh, okay, yeah.
What is the name of Bane's army in The Dark Knight Rises? The League of Shadows, The League of Killers, The League of Legends, Justice League.
League of
Shadows.
Which one is the longest movie out of the trilogy?
Oh god, it's got to be Dark Knight Rises.
It's Rises.
Which punk rock legend had a role as an extra in The Dark Knight? Matt Skiba, Travis Barker, Tom DeLonge, Mark Hoppus.
Fuck. I don't know.
I believe you could use your SAT prep tool here.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm going to eliminate the Blink-182 people.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I didn't even think about that.
All right. What is the name of Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character in The Dark Knight Rises?
Dick.
Harvey Dent, Peter Foley, Bill Wilson, John Blake.
John Blake, baby.
Did you say Dick?
Dick Grayson.
What comic book convinced Christian Bale that he wanted to play Batman? No Man's Land, Batman Year One, Arkham Asylum, The Killing Joke.
Year One.
Sure, I have no idea.
How old does Bruce Wayne turn in Batman Begins? I don't know why. I don't know. It's you guys. It's 32, 31, 30, or 29. What did you say?
31.
We said 31.
All right. You scored 70%.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see where we are. Which language did Ken Watanabe speak during Batman Begins? You guys said Tibetan. It was not a real language.
Fair.
Which character did Heath Ledger audition for before playing the Joker? It was Batman, not the Scarecrow. Yeah. How many days did Batman Begins shoot for? It was 129, not 134.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. You're the worst. What is the name of Gotham American football team? It is the Gotham Rogues.
Ah, shit.
Scrolling. So far, so good. What comic book convinced Christian Bale that he wanted to play Batman? It says Arkham Asylum is the answer, though I'm fairly certain that comic book came out after the movies, but...
Seems wrong, but...
How old does Bruce Wayne turn in Batman Begins? The answer is 30.
Oh.
And there you go, but you got 70% as a team.
Not bad.
Good job. With that being said, let's get into our flick of the week. The Dark Knight Rises, released in 2012, rated PG-13 at a 2 hour and 44 goddamn minute runtime. 8 years after the Joker's reign of anarchy, Batman, with the help of the enigmatic Catwoman, is forced from his exile to save Gotham City from the brutal guerrilla terrorist Bane. That's your IMDb synopsis. I wish somebody had just stopped writing and they just said from the brutal gorilla. That would have been a tremendous synopsis. Before we dive into the movie, we've each grabbed another drink, and I would like to go around the table and ask what you're all drinking.
Before I was sipping on a Angry Orchard crisp apple. Now I have a Landon Kugel's Summer Shandy.
Okay, all right.
Huh.
Little sweet treat action. Gary, what about you?
I have Dennis Hill Estate Saison from Norbrook Farm Brewery. It's just the longest name ever.
Now, I'm not saying that you guys are failing me here, but what I have is a Fernie Branca.
Oh.
No, what are you doing?
So Gary, the funny thing is, this is months in the making, because he mentioned something about Fernie Branca to me, and then 3 days later, he sent me a picture of the front of a bottle of Fernie Branca. So
yeah, I got it. I actually got it for my birthday, and man, I really like it.
Okay.
So what is it exactly?
It's it's a digestive, and it's it's a bitter. It's just a little kind of cordial that you would drink, but it's got a lot of aromatics and a very heavy cardamom flavor in it.
I would not be able to pick out the flavor of cardamom. But a gun.
Well, I will next time you're around. I will give you some. I really like it.
Don't ever give me any of that.
What is the base of a Fernie Branca? Is it similar to, is a liqueur based on something, or is it just totally its own thing?
I think it's totally its own thing.
What is it made from?
I couldn't tell you everything that's in it because I don't have the bottle in front of me, but I will say
what's the base that the spirit is from?
Oh, I don't know.
It's a liqueur. I don't
know what the base is.
Well, because if you have say Drambuie, it's a liqueur. It's a liqueur based off of Scotch whiskey. Like Irish Mist is a base off of like Irish whiskey. So I was just wondering what this was. Like
Fernet is an Italian type of Amaro, a bitter aromatic spirit. Fernet is made from a number of herbs and spices, which vary accordingly to the brand, but usually includes myrrh, rhubarb, chamomile, cardamom, aloe, and especially saffron.
You're drinking
myrrh? With a base of grape distilled spirits.
That's what I was looking for.
So like a grappa base, I guess, of some kind?
Yes.
Also have a bottle of grappa that I really like.
I think I've had one very small sip of grappa one time, and I can't even recall what it tasted
like. Getting back to the movie. That we haven't started.
I like the Fernie Branca and grappa talk. So
I would like to start off with our tweet length reviews. Gary, I didn't actually check with you beforehand to see if you had one.
Oof. Oh, gee.
I won't make you go first if you're not ready. I'll let Al go, and then I'll go, and then
Bale gives his best performance as Bruce Wayne in Batman while tackling Bane.
Okay, all right. And what's your score out of 10?
8.
Okay. Al, what about you?
Okay. Sorry, I was trying to record his. Fuck! I forgot how long this movie is. Somehow, simultaneously, nothing happens and entirely too much happens across most of this movie.
Oh.
Great action set pieces don't outweigh the bloated and disjointed plot.
What are you talking about?
All right, so we're clearly going to get into this movie. So mine says, this far too often maligned final installment of the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy leans heavier into its comic book origins for the run of its story, while diving deeper into the characters and their emotional states than its more grounded predecessors. 9 out of 10. I'm a huge fan of this movie. I actually was talking to Gary before the show started that I've seen this movie far too many times. I actually saw it like somewhere between like 4 and 6 times in theaters.
Okay.
Oh, did you? I didn't saw it more than once. I didn't know.
I saw it a lot.
But before we go into it, tell Gary about the experience, because I know we've talked about it on the show a few times, but I don't think Gary knows about our specific.
The first viewing of The Dark Knight Rises for us was in theaters, was at an IMAX, and it was a whole day affair, and it started with Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, leading into the midnight release of The Dark Knight Rises, and it was amazing. It was so cool. Good. And then I saw it like 2 more times in other theaters, and then I saw it on the dome of the Liberty Science Center, and then I saw it again. The Liberty Science Center one was a little too much. It's a very big screen. It's very in your face. But it was quite the treat. And I will say that during after that, having seen it that many times, towards the end of that initial run, it dipped for me, and then every time since then that I've watched it, I've appreciated it more and more.
It's funny because from my perspective, and I did very much enjoy, despite how ridiculous that, I mean, I think I worked like a full day in like White Plains and then drove down to meet them in New Jersey for like, I want to say it was a 7:00 start to Batman Begins. I barely made it in.
Which is fine.
We watched. Well, they were there like an hour early because it was at a mall, so like they were there like a while early actually.
Yeah.
So I met them. We sat down. We watched Batman Begins. 45-minute break. Bathroom, concessions. They did some trivia.
Yeah.
Dark Knight again. 45-minute break. Bathroom, concessions, trivia, some hype action.
Lots of hype.
And then we watched the movie. And then I think. Pouring rain, also 95 degrees, and my air conditioning wasn't working. We drove.
Yeah. It was just a fog show on the way home. It was ridiculous.
Drove across the Goethals Bridge to your parents' house.
Yeah, and all I heard was the Zimmer theme as I was driving. Man, that experience was amazing. From one, getting to see just this insane trilogy that I hold so near and dear to my heart, to the fact that we have like these special lanyards. And you were able to go in and out of the theater, which I really liked. We also had, it was like unlimited popcorn and soda, because if you get the large, you can refill them. you never actually refill them during a normal showing. But when you're in the movie theater for 3 movies, you refill it constantly. And then somewhere after The Dark Knight, we took that break. We went to the parking lot, and we just had Heroes that I brought from the pizzeria.
Oh yeah, that's right. You brought like foot long like Italian combos.
Oh yeah, it was great. It was quite the treat. The fact that we all stayed awake was a miracle.
Yes. And I loved that experience, and I really enjoyed watching the movie that time. To be fair, I think I've only watched this movie start to finish, let's call it 4 or 5 times.
Jesus.
Okay.
But I've seen significant sections of it multiple times, like on top of that. Each time I've watched it, and it's been a progressive thing where like the second time I watched it, I still really enjoyed it. But on each successive viewing, each time I think about it more, and it's been a couple of years since I've watched the whole thing, actually. So sitting down to watch the whole thing the other day, there are a lot of problems with this movie. And, like, some of it is hyperbole, like, and you see the jokes about it online, but some of it is true, and some of it is, like, I'll file into the category of good, bad, where it's like, that's not very good, but there's entertainment value to be derived from it. Like, so it's going to sound like I'm complaining about this movie a lot while we talk about this. I still would say that the movie is enjoyable. It's just not good.
Come on.
Yeah, I will completely disagree with you on that, but we will get into specifics. I am excited to dive deeper to hear what you have to say. I missed what your number score was, unless I cut you off before.
No, I went straight from tweet length into grade. It's 5.5 out of 10.
Okay. Gary, where do you stand on ranking the 3 movies? Are you a 2-3-1? Are you a 3-2-1?
I'm pretty borderline, man. I could be a 3-2-1. I'm just It's so fucking scary to say and admit that, because everybody's just like, the Joker and Heath Ledger this, and I mean, I agree with Al about parts of these movies being bloated and stuff like that, but for me, it's the Hong Kong visit and Dark Knight that makes that less rewatchable. Even with the shorter runtime, I mean, most of the scenes in this movie keep your attention. I feel like it's the most schlocky movie Chris Nolan has ever made and he'll ever make. I mean, this is a gift. Yeah. This is a high art director pretty much doing like one of the 90s Batman movies. I mean, if you actually just describe this movie to somebody instead of just showing it to them, it's like, well, Bane, he has a plane and he docks another plane and he tells the CIA pretty much exactly what he's going to do while he does it, and they still can't stop it.
Yep.
And that plane falls out of the sky, and Catwoman is at Bruce Wayne's party, and Alfred just lets her go upstairs for some reason. And then she steals Bruce Wayne's dead mom's pearls. So Bruce Wayne tracks her to some party, and Talia al Ghul is just there the whole time, and she shows up at every one of these parties trying to talk to Bruce Wayne, in a very obvious plot which he ignores. Well, he actually just keeps chasing Bane, who has all of his attention and has all of the police attention. Eventually traps them under the subway for 3 months. I mean, this is ridiculous. This is a ridiculous movie that shouldn't work, and it works. Bane robs Wall Street, and the police just say, nah, fuck this guy. Let's chase Batman, even though this guy just robbed all of Wall Street. It's insane. But awesome.
It's crazy. It's the most comic booky of the trilogy. But it's not a problem. I think it works really well. I actually think that it's almost more imaginative than the other movies, because it leans into some of that stuff, and it's telling you to just kind of take certain things at face value, because like, as far as he's been trying to ground the series the whole time, but it is still Batman. We could still have a little fun with it, and he does.
Everyone's having so much fucking fun in this movie. Like, fucking Christian Bale, this is his best performance because he doesn't care anymore. He gets to play older Bruce Wayne, and they give him a robot leg.
Wait, was he having fun or was he just not giving a shit? Because those are
Okay, I understand how you could like get that from the performance, but like it's what 45-year-old Bruce Wayne that he's portraying that's kind of semi-retired that doesn't give a shit. So to me that's good acting.
Yeah, but the problem is there's scenes that are serious where he doesn't give a shit. Like when he's doing he's re-entering the world thing and he's doing actually there's even a line right where I think where Talia says you have this practice apathy about you and like he's doing that as Bruce Wayne re-entering social life, and it's like I think it's totally within the rights of the character to do that in those sequences. It actually fits really well with I'm putting the mask back on to be Bruce Wayne again. And the mask, but like I'm not really checking to make sure the mask fits my face well, that you can't see me behind it.
Sure.
So I'm totally on board with that. The problem is there's other sequences that are like serious where like I'm supposed to believe that he's all in, that Bruce is all in, and I don't.
No, you're not supposed to believe that he's all in because the problem, what you're dealing with here is 8 years have lapsed and all of our heroes are super jaded and super fried based on the crazy decisions that they've had to make that led them to this point. They're all so damaged at this point that they are, to some degree, they're burnt out. And like Bruce is, Alfred says it better, where he said, Bruce says, you're afraid if I go out there, I'll fail. And Alfred says, I'm afraid you want to. He's playing that character perfectly.
Yeah, but to like that exact scene though is what I'm talking about, where when I first saw the movie, that scene hurt me a little bit because I was like, oh man, this relationship's breaking. But watching it again now with like the foreknowledge of what happens and everything, like Michael Caine acts his ass off in that scene, and and Christian Bale does not.
I disagree.
I don't buy.
I don't know.
Wholly disagree. Christian Bale, Bruce Wayne doesn't have any of the context.
Well,
I would argue that he's acting on par or better.
No, because Alfred he literally gives him the context, and Christian Bale was just reading the lines.
I don't think context or rhetoric is even important, like in any aspect. It's just about being like an icon as Batman. So, like, Michael Keaton, you just think about Michael Keaton, like, abstractly. Like, somebody says Batman 89, and whatever scene pops into your head, pops into your head. Like, if somebody says Batman Forever, like...
You want to get nuts!
Yes, that's the scene that everyone thinks about. But, like, when I think about Christian Bale as Batman, as Bruce Wayne... I would think about him from this movie more so. I think the tonal issues are more in The Dark Knight, actually. I think that's the most erratic Batman, where he doesn't know who he wants to be. When it goes from him being super serious about Rachel and being really sad all the time. But they don't go into it, and the next scene, he's with the models buying the hotel or buying the yacht even. It's just... this is the most cohesive Batman and Bruce Wayne we get throughout one movie. You understand who he is the entire time. And maybe that's because it's a more lived-in universe, and this is the team that's come back for the third movie. But in Batman Begins, maybe that's part of the character development. He changes over time. Sure. But in this, the third and final movie in the trilogy... he's Bruce Wayne, and he's Batman consistently the whole time, I feel. It's the same character from beginning to end.
I don't have a problem with any of the writing of the character in any of the movies. And actually, like even in this one, while maybe I don't necessarily view it as strong as the first two, I don't have an issue, like you mentioned tonal, I don't have an issue with tone. I don't have an issue with the way the character is written. My quibble here is not with the specifics of the character. It's not the specifics of what the character says in that scene. My issue is with Christian Bale in that scene and in several other scenes. And he is a really good actor, and I think that he brought it at every point in the first two movies. I don't think he did. It wasn't the whole movie, but there are important scenes that, you know, we talked about it when we did Interstellar, right, Anthony? Like the well-worn complaint at Christopher Nolan not knowing how to write human emotion, and I disagree with that. We disagreed with that when we talked about it in that one. I still disagree with it in this movie. My issue is not with the writing there, or the directing. My issue is with the performance in that scene.
That is funny to me, because I don't know if I don't want to put words into your mouth, Gary, but like this is, in my opinion, this is his best performance as Batman.
Yes.
It sounded
100%.
like you guys both said that in your tweet length reviews. For sure, Gary, explicitly said that. I disagree. I didn't think it was. I just thought it was uneven. Like, there are some scenes where he did just fine, and there are some scenes where I just didn't think he measured up.
That's funny. I think that every character in this movie has taken on the weight of the previous 8 years accordingly. And I think that I really think they all bring it, it's so interesting to see.
And this cast is so ridiculous. I mean, one could argue this is Nolan's best front-to-back cast. I mean, Bale, Hardy, Hathaway, Gordon-Levitt, Michael Caine, Gary Oldman, Courtyard, Freeman, Murphy. Neeson gets like a little flashback. Modine, Mendelsohn. I mean, that's deep.
Mendelsohn.
That's so deep.
Even Bern Gorman, who is playing the exact same role as always.
Wow. No, it is. I'm curious to hear more of of like the issues that you've had with him in other scenes. But I will say, I would like to point out some of the other characters. One of my favorite things about this is like similar to what I just said about Bruce is carrying the weight of the last 8 years. Everybody is. Alfred probably more than anyone, because he knows that at some point the truth's going to come out and he's going to ruin their relationship. Jim's PTSD, those flashbacks that he gets like within the opening of the movie of Dent, and you getting the slightly peppered in backstory that like the wife left with the kids and all this stuff, and it's because he backed this man that actually was putting his child in danger, and he vilified the bat. Like his whole thing, like he understood why he did the things in the time, but the weight of that over the years has really brought him down, and like to the point where he has the speech in his pocket that he's ready to read, but then like kind of pulls back on, and he's so torn. And I think Gary Oldman, as per usual, crushes it.
Yes, Gary Oldman's performance as Commissioner Cognitive Dissonance is incredible.
Gary?
Yeah.
Correct me, not Oldman.
Like I said, that's just the first 20 minutes. I mean, this movie, let's just switch to Tom Hardy, I guess, as Bane, because that's the other main component of this movie, and I think one of the most rewatchable ones. Like, okay, guys, here's the thing about the Joker and Heath Ledger's Joker. It's a great performance. It's not well written.
Boy.
I mean, every line that you remember isn't very clever. I mean, do you want to know how I got these scars? That's all delivery. That's not writing. My father was a drinker and a fiend. You know, it's all delivery. It's not, I killed a bus driver. I mean, that's probably maybe the most clever line that he has. Whereas Bane dunks on people this entire movie, starting with Littlefinger in the plane, where Littlefinger's just like, you're a big guy. And Bane's just like, for you. I mean, that's when the train comes off the track. I mean, crashing this plane. And we all remember the 2-minute trailer in the theater that was just this opening clip, pretty much, and how hard it was to understand exactly what Bane was saying. But they fix it by the initial release of the movie, thank God. I think actually some people did get some cuts that were still the original Christopher before they fixed it, just based on early releases and stuff like that. But I mean, Bane, the Wall Street, like we could just quote Bane back and forth this whole time. And it's the voice, sure. The delivery is still important. But the lines, they make you laugh.
It's the eyes, man. It's the eyes. He's
funnier than the Joker. Like how many, the Joker doesn't make you laugh in that movie. He's not funny. He's just scary. Where Bane's funny.
Well, he's not crazy.
I would say, from the perspective of the dialogue, yes, you're absolutely right. The one-liners and such that Bane has are much better. There's no question about it. And both their delivery is pretty excellent. I do think that the Ledger Joker is a more complete, well-rounded character, the way the character is written. So I think that is the writing that's most important than the one-liners. Because you're right, a lot of it is just delivery. It's not, although I will say that I did enjoy when he's converting Dent into Two-Face. I think that scene is really well written. But overall, I agree that the specific dialogue that Bane has is a bit more punchy than the ones that Ledger has as the Joker. Mm-hmm. And Bane is a solid villain. He's still also, from the perspective of his, bio is fairly well written. It's a big twist, right? That it's not him, that it's Miranda as Talia. Was a pretty significant twist. Though one that we should see coming. I will say one of my major issues with this movie is, you guys were kind of alluding to it already and kind of poo-pooed it. And to me, upon rewatch and having some time with it, is a bigger issue for me. There are so many plot contrivances in this movie.
It doesn't matter.
It does, though. It does when it's measured against the other two Nolan movies. It's not when it's measured against other comic book movies. And that's the disconnect for me. I don't measure this against other comic book movies. I measure it against the other two Nolan Batman movies. And those movies, largely, every movie has a contrivance or three. It happens. This one had so many of them. And upon rewatch, Miranda she's totally screaming to you the whole time that she's got to be involved somehow. Because none of her character makes any sense. The dogged determination to explain to everyone how she's a different sort of billionaire, right? That I'm the altruistic one. Where it's and no such thing exists. Actually, for a movie that has so much on the nose, that's the one thing that they didn't really drive home properly. How she was trying to so obviously throw off from her. Oh, no, I'm the people's billionaire. You know what I mean? I'm the one who's going to save the world with my clean energy project. I threw the catering, I paid for the catering of this charity, ham-handedly written, and it still doesn't even drive the point across that you're trying to get there, where it's set off the alarm bells that she's the one we should be watching out for. And at what point do we establish any sort of romantic connection between the two of them to where
that's the problem? That's definitely a problem in the movie.
So I mean, it's kind of the whole movie, right? Where he goes broke and she just shows up at his house and we're just gonna fuck now. At what point did we establish that we've been building sexual tension of any?
No, we didn't. That's not the point. The whole point is that he's Bruce Wayne at that moment is entirely alone for the first time. Whether he thought he was alone before that, now with Alfred gone, he is alone, and she, as a very brilliant villain, was able to infiltrate his heart at that point.
Sure, I don't have a problem with her succeeding. I have a problem with him failing in that moment.
Canonically,
why do you have a problem with him failing in that moment? He's literally he's at a loss. He feels hopeless and alone.
But she didn't really try too hard. She's just
she didn't have to.
She's let me just fuck your problems away.
Right. She utilized his position. She was waiting the whole she's been waiting for years. She knows how to manipulate these situations.
It's the slow knife that you don't see coming. I do understand the
Al's
point.
Right. They should have a deeper relationship if this is a trilogy, for her to just show up out of nowhere. I mean, canonically, Talia al Ghul and Bruce Wayne give birth finally to Damian Wayne. I mean, they do have a kid in the comic books together, but just the fact that the first two movies spend so much time on Rachel being so important takes time away from any other love interest. So I think going backwards, yes, that's a problem. I think Marion Cotillard gives a
I don't
great
know.
performance.
I'm not going to yield on this one. I disagree. Like it's a different take on the character. Like the background of the character is the same. The utilization is actually more villainous, and I appreciated what happened there. Like there is slow manipulation throughout her entire life that's led to the finality of the movie. The only flaw with this character for me is the death scene. It's the worst death scene I've ever seen.
Again, pretty ham-handed, yes. But no, I guess even, to Gary's point, I would agree. If she kind of popped in and out throughout the course of the movies or whatever, fine. But let's just say logistically we can't do that.
It's a lot to put in one movie.
It's a lot to put in one movie, but to see any sort of incremental developing of their relationship to where I would believe he would capitulate to her. Like, I just don't buy it based on their interactions prior to that. I don't buy it.
And to Christopher Nolan's, to his point here, if this was an Iron Man movie, it'd be much more choreographed and obvious. I mean, for what it is, it's still very good. Anthony's right. But I just feel like there should have been more backstory there, especially if you're going to do like.
Well, that kind of leads to my major issue with the movie is that it should have been two movies.
Okay.
It feels like two movies.
The movie should have been split at the point of the breaking of the bat, and that gives you enough time to add an hour on either end of more character development and more relationship building, which they do a tremendous job of, I think, in the 2 hour and 40-minute runtime, considering how much is in the movie.
Well, I was going to say, it feels like they Frankensteined two separate movies with the same plot, like points, like tied together, where at times, this movie is like paced and structured and feels like an origin story. Because it's Bane's origin story, essentially. But it's ending a trilogy. And those two things don't jive. It was like...
That's what I'm saying, though. Two movies would have actually solved that problem.
Yeah. Which is, again, I think, is a failing of this movie on its own, because it doesn't... Like, the two things, the two tones, the two things they're trying to accomplish don't jive together into one movie. It feels disjointed. You know what it actually kind of reminded me of watching it was, when you watch a TV show that, like, has a first season that maybe it's really good, maybe it's kind of good, but there are, like, flaws to it, and then they reboot the whole show for the second season.
Mm-hmm.
That's how this movie felt to me as an addendum to the two movies prior to it. The first two movies feel like part of the same series. This one almost feels like it's something entirely new with the same characters and actors portraying them in it. Like,
I don't know.
It's a continuation of that storyline, but it doesn't feel like it's from the same universe.
I think there's a key point here of the first two movies are consecutive, and this movie is 8 years later.
I feel like...
I mean, they're consecutive, but there is time between them.
Not much. There's not much between the first and second.
It's months, a year.
Yeah, maybe.
This is 8 years. It's a big time gap, and they're all living with these intense decisions that were made at the end of the second film.
I understand, but what I'm talking about isn't just, like, they kind of like I said, it feels like a reboot. There's times where it feels like watching the first movie in a series or a first episode in a series where they are explaining it to you like this is the first time you've been here.
I just feel like the movie is calling back to other nostalgia. And you guys, there's
definitely some of that too.
You do like a best moment, worst moment of a movie, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, my best moment for this movie, and it's pretty ridiculous, is during the Wall Street heist. When the two cops are in the car and, Batman drives over them or whatever, and the cop says to the other cop, "Boy, you're in for a show tonight." And that's Batman's big return. And one of my big problems with Batman Begins is it takes an hour for Batman to begin. But here's the irony, and I've never really admitted this before, but it takes 53 minutes for Batman to put on the actual suit in this movie, and that doesn't bother me. And that's because I find the world so much more lived in and everything's so much more ridiculous. I mean, this is just Christopher Nolan doing a big, dumb action movie, and I love big, dumb action movies. I mean, so yeah, for me, that's the best moment, and it relies on nostalgia for The Dark Knight and even Batman Begins, if you like that movie. It's just the buildup of something that didn't exist before. I mean, you have to see the other two movies to get the two cops talking to each other. I just think that's just a great movie moment.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you. I love that. There's a handful of moments throughout watching the movie where I kind of just like prop myself up a little bit further in the seat and get real excited. Like, and it's like, that's one of them. Like, I'm super involved. I feel like the other guy in the car at that point. It's so much. It's the movie. I find the movie to be a lot of fun. As far as favorite moments, I actually, while I didn't harp on it before while I was when talking about it, I agree with you with Tom Hardy's performance. Him as Bane, his lines, his monologues, his terrifying eye acting. Like, I'm all about it. It's so good. And that between Bane's monologues and Alfred's monologues, like I could just listen to the script of this movie. Good. I was watching the movie and I have the script out. I have all three movies in like a giant book of the scripts, and I was going through it, kind of following along here and there. And it was so funny to see how many of the lines that hit so well are actually not written. They are slightly changed based on, like, I guess how they said them in the moment. Like, not fully memorized, but like adjacent to what the actual line is. And the delivery is really where it's at in these movies. But yeah, those are, I will say, those specifically those monologues are my favorite part. Al, do you have a favorite moment?
I don't know that I have one specific favorite moment for the movie. I enjoyed a lot of the big interactions between Bane and other characters, because it's like you said, like, he had so many great one-liners where, you know, so those are some of the best moments of whether it be the intimidation, you know,
follow him. One of my favorite lines.
Yeah, no, it's great. I did kind of appreciate, you know, Gary saying, you know, he was just dunking on people throughout the whole course of the movie. Right? You think that gives you power over me?
Yeah,
and it's like,
oh, with that hand on the reverse side on his shoulder as he says it.
I will say, I've always, and you know, it became a whole meme on the internet, right? I've always been confused by that death scene. It never made sense to me. I don't believe that's how snapping someone's neck goes precisely.
You mean you don't snap and then scream?
Like, projected and with multiple octaves involved? No, not to. Yeah.
That's what he deserved after that clean slate speech.
Actually, I kind of approved, despite the fact that it's full-blown Basil exposition, I kind of appreciated, like, the way that Ben Mendelsohn did all that. Oh, clean slate, the master tool and so, like, these are what I'm talking about when I have issues with, like, some of the issues with this is like, I just groan when I hear those things. Like, I don't find that to be.
I mean, it's stupid. It's a comic book movie.
But the problem is, and again, it's measuring against other Nolan work. There are so many sequences and scenes of just unpolished mess that doesn't come into play in his other movies. It doesn't feel like his movie.
Well, I will. So two things. One, the clean slate is the worst part of the movie. I have that down as my least favorite part. Is the exposition around it. There's a much better way to do that, where you kind of hint at this thing that she wants. You don't really explain what it is, and in the moment when Bruce hands it to her, she says something along the lines of, "Is this going to work?" And he tells her what she has to do, and then you understand what it's for. That's all you needed to do. I didn't need the master tool for a master. I didn't need any of that shit. I hate the clean slate monologue, and I will say that actually I had a huge problem with Ben Mendelsohn because of this movie until I saw him in things later on.
Yeah, because it's not a Ben Mendelsohn issue. That's a script issue. Like, because Ben Mendelsohn is a really good actor.
Sure. Sure. But I kind of want to lean into a little bit. You keep saying like so many scenes and so many things. I'm going to need more examples because it feels like a lot of hyperbole.
What do you mean?
Like of your issues with the movie. I need more specifics because so far I haven't agreed except for
Batman
the clean
and
slate.
Catwoman fighting back to back on a fucking roof. What else do you want?
Well, I already told you. I mean,
what is what?
If you recall my tweet length review,
and then Bane walking in holding his jacket.
That's so cool. How could you not enjoy that?
If you recall the final line of my tweet length review, great action set pieces don't outweigh the bloated and disjointed plot.
Who cares?
Were great action set pieces. Well, again, and I cannot harp on this enough, when measured against the polish of Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, this one doesn't measure up.
Fine.
It still has the action sequences that are excellent as they were in those.
Okay, fine.
The problem is it does not have the tight plot and pacing and the polish of the other two movies. There are multiple issues with either poor writing, disjointed tone and plot not working, etc., so on. And I think inconsistencies in some of the acting.
So
predominantly with Christian Bale. I don't have a problem with Michael Caine or Gary Oldman or Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Maybe one or two scenes of Anne Hathaway, but for the most part, she did a great job as well. Tom Hardy did an almost singularly excellent job throughout the course of the movie.
What are some more issues you had with the plot?
Well, I mean, like I said, the whole Miranda
the plot
thing
doesn't make any sense. He's right, but like me and Anthony can just enjoy that.
I need more. This is too generic. What's wrong with the
Wall
plot?
Street to steal Bruce Wayne's money. That's impossible. Like Bruce Wayne would just say, "Hey, Bane stole all my money. Stop it."
He's a little too arrogant. It's actually his own downfall. But go on.
Sure, but I have worked in the financial world. I've worked for a hedge fund. Just jumping in and throwing up some trades in the middle of that on Wall Street, like they would have closed the market and no trades would have been able to be executed, no matter how many fucking fingerprints you have.
Okay, so it's more of an execution issue that you have than a plot issue.
I mean, in that scene, sure.
Okay.
It's 2020. No town or city would have everybody evacuate as opposed to just calling in every military vehicle there is to shoot Bane. I mean, it's literally opposite of like what would actually happen. That's just what happens in like Arkham City games. And that's fine. That services the movie. But that, I mean, yes, Al's right. There are plot problems with this movie. Either you can get past a great director doing just absolute schlock to the highest standard that he has, or you can't, and you think it's ridiculous.
The thing is, like, I groaned during it because it's lowest common denominator version of that. It's the schlock version of what Nolan's doing, but I'll grant him, the liberty to do when she disappears and he goes, "Oh, so that's what it feels like." Like, that's funny. Like,
that's funny.
That was funny.
It's groan worthy, but it's funny. Like, it works for there. And because this movie is a little darker somehow, even than the Ledger one, like all of them are dark to some extent. This, in a lot of ways, is darkest. It's got the most somber tone from start to finish of the rest of them, while the other ones certainly dabble in that at times, or even, throw themselves fully into it. It's never been the whole time in those movies the way it was in this one. If you want to talk about specific plot and scene stuff like that, another one that I have a pretty big issue with is the fight with Bane. What happens to all of his gadgets? He does the thing where he throws the little smoke bomb and he talks about theatricality. Another great line for Bane. He has 1 million of them in that scene.
Right.
But realistically, what happened to all of his gadgets in that fight? I mean, he had all sorts of batarangs and knives and gas-powered knives that he could shoot off of his fucking with those greaves. Is that what it is on
gauntlets?
Gauntlets, yeah. Like, none of that comes into play. He never attempts to use anything in his arsenal in this fight.
And the League of Shadows never steps in to do anything. Like, they fight the police, but they
the whole him not using the it's more about, I feel like, he's not focused. That's part of it. He's also out of practice. I don't actually have an issue with him not using all of his gadgets. I feel like that actually is more in line with where he's at right now. And he's just kind of frustrated.
Least of his gadgets against his most intimidating foe.
He's not using his mind at all, though.
But he used another one to turn the lights off and like try and sneak up on him. Like,
yeah, but it was not. It seemed more of a reaction than actually like play. Like, he wasn't. He almost seemed like he was just being like almost flailing in the moment.
I get that, he's the most brawling that he is in any of them. At one point, he literally just screams to like hype himself up. Yeah, it's just it. I mean, did he not use some of that stuff? He was training before he goes out onto the streets, admittedly on a fairly short basis, but he was going out and fighting all these people. He was trashing them, this and that. He's got his motorized leg thing, which, again, if we want to talk about plot contrivances, he breaks his own back. They heal his back, I guess. But the dude couldn't walk without his motorized knee brace, and then he can make that, like, death-defying jump without the knee brace.
Because he fixed his back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because he fixed his back, which also then fixed his knee, which had zero cartilage. Does not allow him to do
this movie doesn't make sense. Either you're like on the ride, or you're not on the ride. And me and Anthony are on
at the end of the day,
ride.
Batman's a comic book character, and I actually think that this is actually more in line with what probably should have been done for the character for the entire series.
I reject that when you consider how good the first two movies are. So I reject.
But you can only go so far with that. You can only be like, "This is the most realistic Joker. This is the most realistic."
Well,
you can't get into Mr. Freeze.
You're either realistic or you're not. Is what I'm
saying. Catwoman. You can't have this is Christopher Nolan breaking the barrier and going full fucking Batman. And that's what he should have been doing. Because it's a Batman movie.
While Bane is super strong, he's still grounded in some form of physics. There's no Lazarus pits. There's no fucking Clayface or any of that bullshit. This is the true blue, grounded, realistic Batman. We had it for 2/3 of the series.
Sure.
You don't get to make a hard left turn like that and then not get criticized for it when you're going to go into the sensational.
It's not. I will argue it's not. It's not as hard of a turn as you're saying. It's going up to the line,
it's pretty
but
gradual.
It's not crossing it.
It's pretty gradual over time.
Yeah.
What over time? All of a sudden, we're just in this movie doing this.
This is a fucking trilogy. This is the third movie in the series. Ra's al Ghul.
In the second movie, we go a little bit crazier with like the gadgets and the fun stuff, and we get a little bit more over the top. And in this one, it takes that to the next level for sure. And a lot of the silly things, I understand what you're saying, especially if you're referring to being grounded in reality. The back breaking and then healing yourself and working through it. That's actually, again, I'm going back to the flaw of this should have been two movies. There should have been a longer period of time. Well, there was a long period of time. It's just not really, it's not super clear how long.
That's another thing is timelines in this get very wonky, but I'll even give them that because you get kind of a mini montage. There's clearly passage of time there. So like, even though I'm not entirely sure how long, there's clearly passage of time. So fair enough.
Right. But all of these characters... All these characters, especially Bruce/Batman, are psychologically damaged from their work prior to this. And the whole movie is them kind of coming to grips and getting back to their roots almost, especially for Bruce, of like, he really originally wanted to save the city, and it's kind of devolved under his nose. Literally with that, I mean, the League of Shadows underground being under your nose, all of that is symbolism. That's there. It's there underground for a reason like that. It's like right there in front of you, and having to kind of rally and get back into it and become that symbol again. Like that's so awesome to me. I don't understand.
I don't have a problem with the big picture message.
And they beat Captain America, Winter Soldier by about 2 years. So.
I don't have a problem with that big picture messaging like that. I don't. And again, even though it's a bit ham-handed, The Dark Knight Rises, they're chanting Rise while he does it. I'm okay with that, with a big sweeping score, and it's supposed to be kind of like a Rocky training montage type of deal. Like, I'm good with that as, kind of rah-rah bullshit as it is. I'm good with it. It actually works with that part of the whole thing. And the larger symbolism, the whole point of what the Nolan trilogy is grounded in is that Batman is a symbol for the people to rise up. And in the third movie, we finally literally get the people to rise up. I like that part of it. I appreciate that part of it. That works. There's other things that are holding it back too significantly is my problem with it. There's another thing that we kind of danced around the edges of it for my own sake, what I found to be, and it's funny because on the front end, I actually want to commend the attempt to go with a different tone for this movie. The first two are built on like the whole, like the suspense, the tension, the mystery, right? The first one is we're building up to how do we get to be Batman? And there you get some thriller sections, right? You get a chemical, like acid trip type of thing when he gets hit with the gas, and we don't know who Crane is, who Scarecrow is, with all that it's about. The second one, figuring out the Joker and all that sort of stuff, is a lot of tense, mysterious stuff that's going on. This one largely eschews all of that in favor of like a more like elegiac tone.
Sure. I don't think it's an actual mystery. I think this is the movie for Batman fans who just know who Talia al Ghul is and know who Bane is. It's not some big mystery.
Well, that's what I'm getting at, is knowing that with no actual surprise to be had on that. Although, it ends up being, if you're not super familiar with it, it ends up being a significant twist, right? That she's the one who was in the pit, all that sort of stuff. So it kind of throws all that by the wayside, and it goes to this other, like, somber, dark, like, lament type of tone where it's saying, the whole movie is, we're going to put to rest the legend of Batman. Like, maybe we don't realize that at the beginning, but by the end, right, we have, like, a funeral for Batman. And I find that to be commendable because it works as a capper for this trilogy and for the movie on its own. The problem is, I think when we have so many sequences that are like, now is the time where we're going to consider how sad this whole situation is, and consider how sad state of affairs in Gotham are, and consider how that we've like lost our innocence with Dent, right? We've lost our protector in Batman, and wish we could have those better times now. It totally kills that propulsive like pacing that makes the first two movies feel essential. This movie just ultimately doesn't feel essential.
It's so funny to disagree so strongly that I feel like this is the perfect conclusion to this trilogy.
Yes.
There's a lot of criticism of, especially with time having passed, of like Endgame for being like checking too many boxes.
Yeah, I think Endgame is a much less successful version of this.
I feel like both of them are guilty of the same thing, but the difference is Endgame is in on the joke the whole time. Like, yes. They're winking at you like, yeah, we get it. We're just kind of doing the thing. And so they have fun with it. And you guys said something earlier.
I think me and Anthony see the fun and you don't see the fun.
I don't think most of this movie is very fun. There are certainly some sequences that are. I don't think that most of this movie is fun.
I think at the end of the day, Christopher Nolan set out to do his version of Batman, and it feels very grounded in the very beginning. From minute one on, it gets less and less grounded. From minute one of Batman Begins on, and it's just at this point we've built on that so much that like there is a hard line between the campy comic book movie and this Nolan style Batman movie, and The Dark Knight Rises goes right up to the line, but it does not go over it.
See, I don't view it nearly as gradually.
No one gave a shit who Bane was. He was just some guy from some 90s movie that had glowy tubes and like grunted. Like, This really put him...
it's that's the problem, is that's what people remember Bane as before this.
And this performance is so nuanced, so much more watchable. Like every time you get a little something different, just because Tom Hardy is
it's also so much more accurate.
Well, you don't have any disagreement for me on that front. I mean, I'm totally on board with you guys with that. I just, I don't have a better way to convey to you guys what I'm saying. I find it odd that you guys view it so differently of me, that you feel it was so incrementally headed this way, whereas to me it feels like we were walking along a knife's edge and then just decided to take the plunge.
I mean, yes, it's just unrealistic, like what Batman villain was going to be, what the Riddler was going to be in Batman 3, and I just don't understand what was going to make ground things more in reality.
It could have been Calendar Man. No, the thing is, I think Bane in this movie is more grounded than you would have expected. Like,
sure,
especially if you have that, PTSD from the Clooney Batman movie. Like, that Bane was ridiculous.
Yeah.
This Bane is less grounded than the Joker and Scarecrow, but not by leaps and bounds. It's close enough. It's within the error of, like, the margin of error. Like, it's fine. That's not the issue I have. Bane is not the issue I have with this movie in any way, with the exception of the way that he kills people, because I still don't understand the Daggett murder. I still don't understand.
Not going to argue with you on that. It's a very weird scene.
And I still don't understand the way he kills the Special Forces guy either later on. But again, those are like the most trifling of issues. Like, those are not what's bringing down the grade for me at all. They're just kind of like curiosities. Like, what's going on over there exactly? You know what I mean? Like,
okay, so me and Al's least favorite part, I think Anthony already did his, which was
the clean slate.
Yes, the clean slate. Okay,
it's actually a tie between the clean slate and Miranda's aggressive death.
That's awful.
Like, also, it's a lot of exposition when she's dying.
It's a very heavy last breath, is what it is.
I don't like the mayor death. I think it's very unnecessary. Like, this guy's put up through so much. Like, he had the fucking jump scare in The Dark Knight.
That confusion, though, that he has right before it happens. He's like, what? And then bang!
Wait, the mayor died?
Yeah, the mayor dies in the football field explosion.
Oh my god, I don't think I ever noticed that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I love that it's the Pittsburgh Steelers, because they shot this whole movie in Pittsburgh.
I mean, if this guy did actually anything wrong, sure, but like, I don't remember anything in the series indicating he was a villain. I mean,
he clearly is, a politician's politician, so we'll just leave it at that.
Politics bad.
Just a routine training exercise.
And that's not a party lines thing. It's just, he's a true blue politician. There was sorry. This isn't like a gripe or anything like that. I'm actually genuinely asking because you guys seem to be more familiar with some of the details of.
Sure.
There's a scene that makes me wonder was there an extended version of this movie or like a director's cut or something like that? There's a scene during like the post-Bane revolution, before Batman comes back, that I don't recall in any way, shape, or form having happened before. And I just possibly I forgot when I don't remember the name of the girl, but when what the hell is Selena and her little sidekick, who I never really understood her purpose in the movie, they go into some house and they look at the shattered picture on the ground. What was that picture?
No, that was always there. I think they just feel bad because they're taking advantage of people. I forget. Yes, I vaguely understand what you're talking about, but I don't know.
It's funny. I think it's like them coming to grips with, like, they've been kind of preaching that something like this needed to happen and was going to happen, and they were all for it. And then once it did, the weight of what that was and how bad it really is, like, dawned on them. It was just a rich family.
Preying on the weak now or something. I don't know.
That's what I thought, but I wasn't 100% sure. And because I was a little bit tired and I was also just didn't really want to fuck with Plex and have it screw with me if I rewound, I wasn't sure if that picture was of someone specific and there was some like specific reason if I missed something.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, so then yes, what you guys are viewing is like the big picture of what the scene's about makes sense to me, and like I appreciate that. It is a nice little touch to, you know, what the collateral damage to this sort of revolution is gonna look like, right? Where it's like it's easy to think about it in the abstract, but knowing what that means on the ground floor to the actual people living it is like, and it's funny because there's little touches like that I kind of mentioned earlier throughout the movie where it's like, there's something there. There's something I think that Nolan wants to say, and he just kind of lets it exist in the background, whereas he ham-handedly handles some of these other things where it's like, maybe if you backed off that a little bit and spent a little bit more time on this, it would be a little bit more resonant. I don't know.
That's true. I think, I mean, that only leapfrogs off The Dark Knight, where he's doing surveillance and the Patriot Act or whatever. So I don't know if the studio told him to like tone that down, or what happened there, if he just, like you said, didn't have a real idea about the wealth divide or the 1% or anything like that, or this movie was made 2 or 3 years later.
That was a major storyline, the first two movies.
Yeah, and it just kind of, you know, ham-handedly, like you said, goes into that.
Yeah, because you get the line as and as true as the line may be, you had some subtlety and nuance to it in the first two movies, and you get to see the both sides or all sides of those situations to some degree, right? It's not the whole movie isn't devoted to that, right? But
no.
We get a good snapshot into the situation and what his prevailing thesis on that is vis-a-vis the way things are going in Gotham. Whereas in this movie, you only really get the big scene where they're at the dance in the charity ball or whatever, and she says, you know, one day you're gonna wonder how all of you could have lived so large for so long and didn't think, and you know, and not leave anything for the rest of us type of thing. It's like, and this is what I'm talking about with these, it's death by 1,000 cuts, where it's like the polish of like the subtlety and nuance of how that's explained in the first two movies gives way to that big dumb scene, and it's like,
which is fun.
It's kind of fun, right? But it's not clever. It's
still ahead of its time. I feel
this is all so far. These issues, a lot of these issues that you seem to have with it, I feel like could have been resolved with a 2-part movie.
Okay, so then this is valid criticism. Then do it right is what I'm saying. Like, you've proven in the past you know how to do it right. So you don't get the benefit of the doubt when you do it wrong.
It's not. I don't know that it was that simple though. As far as making the movies, like I'm not defending that. Like, I would prefer it to be 2 movies. I would, like I said, there's a clear cut point where the movie would have broken into 2 parts. There's obviously licensing and property issues when it comes to the characters. I don't know that he would have had the freedom to do that.
That's fine. So then make a better movie.
I think it's a great movie. I think it stands on its own. I mean, we don't have to backtrack anything. I don't.
Yeah.
I guess all I'm saying is I view the first 2 as singular and self-contained movies that achieve and execute on their goal and tie together in a series adequately. This one doesn't tie in adequately with the other 2, and it doesn't stand alone on its own because you keep asking for it to be split into 2 movies. Which fine.
Okay, hang on. I'm saying it would be. I would have preferred that just because I would have gotten more out of it. It does stand on its own. It is unique from the other 2. It has its own. It does comic book mixed with realism probably the best, where it still has its semblance of a comic book movie. Whereas the other movies don't.
This is better than Doctor Strange, man.
But I'm not comparing it to
the two the two other movies that are so close in tone, and I really do think that you really have to look at the time jump.
Yeah, but I don't think I'm out of line to reject that you making such a significant. You guys are talking about incremental and that it doesn't stand alone. Now you're saying that it is unique and that it's a time jump and it has to be different, or that it's fine that it is different, and maybe it is fine. Like, I suppose that is a matter of opinion, but to me, why this movie doesn't work is it is so dramatically different than those other two movies, and it's not just in tone; it's in, I believe, polish and execution quality is substantially lesser than the other two movies.
Yeah, I will say I could see where you're coming from with the criticism of polish. I will attribute that. I do think that's attributed to, like I said, the whole they just needed more time. But that being said, it didn't bother me enough to make me dislike the movie. Like, it's still.
Well, I already said at the front end, I still think it's an enjoyable movie. I just think that it is substantially less quality movie than the other.
Just the first two movies are so sweaty. Like, you could tell, like, all the intricacies. Like, Christopher Nolan's trying so hard. It's like, oh, this is a tightly wound thing. You get this one shot of Batman or the Joker holding his mask, and, you know, I mean, he kills this guy, and this guy kills this guy, and the Joker crew. This movie's just fun. It's just fucking, just go for the ride and have a good time. And it's just so unique seeing.
I mean, there's
from
some
Christopher
scenes,
Nolan,
like, where, like the scene with the clean slate when he shows up and they fight on the rooftop, and then they get like rescued by the whatever the. Did they ever give a name to what that thing? Oh, just the bat, right?
The bat, yeah.
That is a fun scene,
yeah,
for sure. Like, it's not entirely devoid of fun, but overall, I didn't find it to be a fun, enjoyable ride in that sense. This movie, I think there's a lot of dark, ominous tones to this movie. It's a somber movie by design. I just didn't think it worked. Like, I commend, the fact that the movie is to be the end of an era. And so it's reflected in that, where there are times where we're just going to reflect on the fact that Batman will be no more, whether it dies because he hangs up the cowl, whatever. I understand the choice. It just, again, I think the execution was failing.
There is a couple of scenes that I think we need to talk about. Just visually stunning scenes. I love the fight sequence with the breaking of the bat, but my favorite part of that scene is the explosive going up into the R&D section of Wayne Tower and then dropping one of the tumblers down. What a scene!
Yes. That was
so freaking good. I agree with Gary with the whole kid, you're in for a show. That scene. Awesome.
Yes.
Batman's back. I love that. Like, Batman Returns on the screen with a question mark. Like subtle. And
but that's a moment where, hey, we're having fun now, and it's fun and it's good. I have no quarrel with that.
And then one thing that I noticed this time around that I feel like I haven't pinpointed before is I know the autopilot was fixed. I know that it was fixed prior to the finale of the movie. It was only this time rewatching it that I realized that it was fixed prior to him going out the first time. And that's the only reason why the bat would have been where it is when he goes, is he calls it in.
Yes.
Which is, like, I feel like that's super subtle and never talked about, but that is the only reason that would have been there.
Yeah, and that's what I was talking about, like, plot contrivances where, like, no one of them breaks the movie, right? But it's just like when they all add up, it's like, and so, like, this happened, and then that happened, and like this happened. It's like,
that's not so much a plot contrivance as much as it is a, like, I actually think that's more of a continuity thing. I think they did a good job there.
He does Batman things.
So I guess you could call it either one. Like, they're kind of inextricably linked, right?
The other thing that we haven't touched on at all is Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, who I love him in this movie. I love him in most movies, but he's such a sarcastic dick the entire movie, and it's so good. The facial expressions that he makes in response to somebody calling him a hothead or like dismissing him are just perfect.
I think it's good.
I would say he's a better actor than the material warrants ultimately. Like it's not like a terribly written character. It's just kind of the character's kind of just there, but his acting gives it some substance.
Yeah, I'm just a fan of him in general. I liked the scene where one of my favorite scenes with him is when he comes into the hospital room, and he has something to say, and basically like it's a strong move of going into where the commissioner is while his technical boss is there so that he could say something that the commissioner will actually want to hear and then take him seriously. Like that was such a power play. And then me like, you lose the uniform, you work for me now. I was just like, yes, every time. But when he repeats the line about coincidence, I will agree with you ham-handed there.
If you're going to make 3 Batman movies, you're going to have at least one Robin. So, it was going to happen one way or another.
That's true. At least he didn't say Holy Rusted Metal.
Oh.
Holy Rusted Metal Batman. What?
If only.
If they found like some way to pepper that in. Oh, also, first time that I watched the movie in just glorious 4K. And when he goes to the construction site where he fights those 2 guys and shoots one and then has the other guy basically shoot himself by the bullet ricocheting off the dump truck. When he shoots that first guy, there is just an explosion of blood that I've never seen before. I was like, oh dear. Oh man. JGL, also known as Robin. That was definitely forced.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I said, you're going to make 3 Batman movies, you have to have at least one Robin. I mean, and there's no that's how things go.
I would have been okay with them like giving him the spelunking gear and getting him into the Batcave without ever saying the words Robin.
Well, I guess, if you're going to go through the whole point of making him the orphan, at least he didn't have his parents die in a tragic circus accident.
Oh, I also like how he's such a boss about going to Wayne Manor and being like, I know who you are, let's get past that. Here's the problem.
I know
I was an orphan,
because
and you were an orphan.
Yeah, I know who you are because we are both orphans, and I know the look on your face. Hence, heretofore, I know who Batman is.
It's just science. Oh, man.
I mean, hell, like, you could have done that scene and had it just been, we're both orphans. We both learned how to grow up on the street in tough situations. You know how to read people. And I knew as soon as I saw you, heard you.
Orphan, billionaire.
What sort of mask you wore, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I could see right through the facade, you know what I mean? Like, that would have been better than, I know what orphans feel like.
you know it's a really heavy scene with him that it's completely thrown away because we don't linger on it for like a second. But he has this partner that's trapped underground for months, finally breaks him out, only to have him shot immediately, and then a grenade thrown down the sewer where he came out of. Like, the entire thing is heartbreaking, and we don't spend any time on it.
Also, the moment in which he says, let me call my partner who's been underground for months is the first time we find out he had a partner.
Sure.
Also, I have another question about, this is kind of an existential question about Batman. When they come down to it at the end, right? He gets stabbed, he's bleeding out, maybe he'll die. He's going to transport a nuclear device, maybe he'll die. And
now you know what it feels to have something hard penetrate.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing?
And so he's having his tearful goodbyes, right? And he says to Jim, sometimes it's just as like important as having someone tell you the world is an ending and putting a coat over your shoulders, right?
Mm-hmm. Something like that.
During that whole sequence in which he's saying goodbye to Jim and to Selina and to Lucius, right? And two of those 3 was Lucius not there for that?
No.
Oh, I guess not. Okay. So
Lucius almost got washed away.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was saying. I couldn't remember if he got out and joined them while they were leaving or whatever. But so he's saying goodbye to the two of them, right? And Miranda had just died. One of those people knows he's Batman, and the other person he's hinting to he knows Batman. And he's about to die, maybe, and he's about to fake his own death, but he also could die and bleed out.
Sure.
Why is he still using the Batman voice?
So. People have had an issue with this for the longest time. I don't know what it was. I was always under the impression that there was a voice modulator, and he was also doing his a little bit of his theatrics, but mostly something in there. But I could be completely wrong about that.
I mean, when you watch Batman vs Superman, there is clearly a voice modulator. This is clearly Christian Bale doing a voice, and it always has been.
Does it make the scene better if he's doing a Christian Bale voice? I mean, I don't think so.
Wait, what?
I mean, would it make the scene better for you if he was doing just his, I'm Bruce Wayne, this is my voice, like just a regular voice? Or?
Well, if the idea is in this moment in which I may or may not be sacrificing my life for Gotham, as I promised I would do, and we're unveiling myself. I understand he's not literally taking off the mask, but it doesn't matter. He's, symbolically shedding his skin and being the White Knight, being the hero Gotham deserved and needed in this moment. It's not really Batman saving them at this point. It's Bruce Wayne, or, the intersection of Bruce Wayne and Batman, his two personas together. Why doesn't he fully unveil himself?
You actually kind of answered the question there, and I actually think it's more of a symbolism thing than anything else, of that Bruce Wayne doesn't exist anymore. He has become Batman.
Well, I guess to this point there has been Bruce Wayne and Batman with a sharp dividing line between the two of them, and this is the melding of those two people. Those two personas have become whole and one now.
No, the Bruce Wayne persona, though, was always kind of... There was never really a redeeming quality to the Bruce Wayne persona.
I mean, other than when he wrecks his Lamborghini to save what's-his-name.
Yeah,
but,
no, he was trying to catch a light.
Otherwise, Bruce Wayne is the facade. I mean, Batman is the real
That's the whole thing.
No. You guys are doing the thing. David Carradine talked about it in Kill Bill. Only Superman gets to do that. Only Superman gets to be wearing a costume as Clark Kent and being himself as Superman. Batman puts on a cape. He even says
No. Bruce Wayne died with his parents. Batman was born that day.
Yeah.
I don't agree.
As he danced with the devil in the pale moonlight.
Regardless, in that moment, who is he putting on the voice for, is I guess what I'm asking. Is it...
I understand.
I hear what you're saying.
The question, and again, this is not like a gripe. I'm kind of curious about the mechanics of that. Like,
I do think that's what it means, though. I think it's more supposed to be the implication that he is fully Batman.
Well, that's kind of what I was asking. I was going to ask it from the other side of that, really, though. But is it a psyche thing? Is it... Can he not do it because he's in costume doing Batman things?
So method.
Well, no, I don't mean Christian Bale method. I mean Bruce Wayne method.
It doesn't matter. If he's wearing the mask, he's doing the voice. If he's not wearing the mask, he won't do the voice. I mean...
That's what I'm asking, is he, because I am doing Batman things in Batman regalia, must I be Batman? Must I be in character as Batman even as I'm revealing myself, my true self? The stitching together of my two sides of my persona, must I still maintain that aspect of Batman, or wouldn't it have made maybe more sense? Would it have been more poetic for, as his facade falls and the two sides can finally coexist together, could he be Bruce Wayne in Batman clothing rather than just Batman in that moment?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I think there's something to be said for fully leaning into being Batman and abandoning Bruce.
Sure, I'm just asking the question.
No, I know. I'm just saying that's kind of how I gauge it. I would say that makes sense to me, and that actually makes me even appreciate the scene in a way that I didn't before, because I never thought about it. Like I said, for whatever reason, I was always under the impression that there was that raspiness was part of something that was going on in the suit. only because like he's never once not sounded like that in the suit. Whether he was talking to, I feel like when he's talking to Alfred and he's got the suit on, he sounds that way.
Yeah, but I think actually that would go to the point of it being Psyche, right? Where it's like, I am taking up the mantle of Batman, and so I will be Batman. You know,
that'd be great. It's like at some point, Alfred's like, first off, stop it with that ridiculous voice. Also, here's a diet soda. That's what Alfred used to sell, right? Back in the 80s, it was Diet Coke, I believe.
Did it?
The advertisements before the movies. Oh man. I love these movies. I just want to rewatch them again. So much fun. I also want to rewatch all of the Batman clips.
I did see the one with Penguin the other day.
So good. This particular movie gave us a couple of great ones. It gave us the Batman being stabbed and not being able to not make a sexual joke about everything. That was a great one. But more so in line with what you were just asking us about with that final scene of him talking to Jim. The whole him closing the Batwing and opening it and closing it, not fully knowing how to control it, and telling him, by the way, I'm Bruce Wayne. And he's like, yeah, I got it. Such a great skit.
I actually think the Gordon character in those skits might be the best one when it's like he just so clearly hates him.
What have you done with the commissioner? Do you not know who I am because I took my glasses off?
He's so condescending to him. But then after all of that, the pivot to when they have the one with Superman, and now he's on Batman's side, where he's agreeing with it. They never agree. They never see eye to eye, and then he's trashing Superman alongside him. I think was great.
We have brought these skits up numerous times on the show, but if you have yet to watch them, Batman, Pete Holmes' Batman skits are amazing. So,
are you a fan of these?
So good.
Is there a Patton Oswalt one or no?
Yes.
Okay, so I think I've seen that one.
Yes. Yeah, there's a whole stretch of them. There's one of them where him and Superman are going to team up for the first time. There's one, like Anthony said, the scene when he's defeated Bane and then finds out Miranda is actually Talia al Ghul, and all of it is just him cracking jokes about how he fucked Talia to like stick it to Bane. There's the scene where he's going to fly off with the thing and he's trying to hint to them that he's Batman, and Gordon's like, I knew the whole time.
Yeah. I think the Superman one has to be my favorite. One of my, well, maybe not. The Joker one is pretty great, but the Superman one where he's Batman, I need your help, and he goes, Why? Because my arch enemy is a roided out freak, and he straight up broke my back.
Yeah, the Joker one probably is the best one. That if you haven't seen any of the ones other than the Penguin one, that's the one I would probably start with. That one, it's the scene where he's interrogating him.
Who punches a hand?
Yeah.
Where are they? Oh my God! Who?
That's such a great he smacks his head and punches. Who punches a hand?
So good. So I got drunk at a birthday party.
The whole concept is he's interrogating the wrong clown.
Yep. Any other closing thoughts on The Dark Knight Rises?
I've always been a little confused about the motorcycle and the spinning of the front wheel. Yeah. Again, not really a gripe.
Just for fun, I'm pretty sure, is the only reason.
I think it must just be fun, and it's funny looking,
It also makes me, if the wheel can spin that way, there was really no reason to ride up the wall in The Dark Knight and then flip around.
Yeah.
We could have just turned. Although I will say that in that one scene in The Dark Knight Rises where he's turning the bike and he's just kind of like going, and it's turning really slowly, that was a little silly.
Garrett?
I think this movie gets better with every watch. I mean, Bane has so much to uncover. His lines are so funny. Nothing we didn't already say. I mean, either you're down for like a super high art director just doing ridiculous schlock at the best level, or you're not. And you can find like the funny and the good for the bad for what it is. I mean, I think this is just a big dumb action movie, and I love big dumb action movies.
One thing that we didn't mention about Tom Hardy's Bane is when he is delivering some of those ridiculous lines, and his eyes are about 4 feet outside of his head. Like they've like really just protruded at that point, and we give it back to you, and like his eyes like Roger Rabbit, yeah, like just yes. Oh man, so good. Well, that's all for this week's episode of Flix in the Six. We hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you have a movie for us to review or nuggets for us to discuss, you can send those requests to flixinthe6@thespintune.com or tweet us at thespintune. Tune in next week for more movie and beer goodness. Until then, I'm Anthony Costanzo.
I'm Al Bielsi.
I'm Gary Garecki.
Thanks for coming out.